What's up guys, in this tutorial we're going to learn two different ways of passing arguments into functions. Now the first way is passed by value and the other way is passed by reference. Now there are actually quite a lot of ways, but in this video particularly and specifically we're going to focus on these two, passed by value and passed by reference. Now in the previous codings what we were using pass by value. We were not actually using pass by reference, but after studying pointers we can now use pass by reference. Now what is this pass by value and what is this pass by reference? Sit back and relax and watch the video, watch me typing, and then once the program is complete I'll explain each and everything. So let's say we have two variables, int office, and these are regular variables, not pointer variables. So int office, set it equal to 10, actually initialize it to 10, and int blender and set it equal to 10. And why I took office and blender, it's because I want to explain pass by value and pass by reference. That is why I took office and blender. Office is a proprietary software, excuse me, and blender is an open source software. So only the corporate people have access to the source code of Microsoft Office, and blender is free to everyone. Anyone with a good idea can change the source code and later distribute it with the help of the blender owners. So with that little background, now remember, my motive to use these variables is just to explain this video, just so the explanation becomes easy and clear. So now I'm going to build two functions, void pass by value, and parameters would be int x, and in the body I'm going to have x and set it equal to 55. And then I'm gonna have another function, void pass by reference, and I hope I spelled that correct. And pass by reference is gonna have a pointer, so it's gonna have int and this x pointer variable, basically a pointer variable that is x, and our pointer variable would be set equal to x and set it equal to 55. Now I know a lot of questions might be arising, but just sit back and relax and just watch me typing for now. Now that I have these two functions built, now is the turn to prototype them. So I'm gonna copy this, paste it under my using namespace std, add a semicolon, and I'm gonna do with this also. Copy this, paste it over here, make sure don't have any extra spaces, and there we go. Now it's the time to call these functions, but before that we're going to see out some statements. So see out, and then let's just call these functions first and then we'll see out these things. So in order to call this function, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type in void. Actually no need to type in void. While calling functions you can directly call, you don't need to mention what type of function it is. So pass by value, and pass by values parameters would hold office, and pass by reference is gonna hold the address of blender. So remember, $sign and blender, because whenever we are passing, remember, a pointer likes to have the address of another variable. A pointer likes to have an address of the other variable. That is what we studied in the previous videos. And a regular innocent variable likes to have values. So by default it's gonna have 10. But let's just go and build and run this program and see what is actually happening. And let me check for errors. And there is an error, semicolon. And bruh, we just forgot one thing. We forgot to see out the value. So see out, and then office is now and then the value of office, and then end that line, not NED, and that line. Now I'm gonna do the same thing with Blender. Okay, so Blender over here and Blender over here. Hopefully I didn't miss anything, and there we go. Now let me just adjust it a bit. Okay, so above this is using namespace std and include iOS stream. Your basic program is starting from here onwards. So now what we did, time for explanation. Now what we did was we built two variables in Office. We initialized Office to 10, and then we built Blender and we initialized Blender to 10. Now the next thing we did was we built two functions, pass by value and pass by reference. Previously what we were doing before we studied pointer, we were using pass by value. Now remember, when passing by value, you are passing in the copy. When passing by reference, you are basically passing in the variable's address. Now if I go and build and run the program, you see what it did was, it says Office is now 10 because the initial value was 10, and then we tried changing the value x equal to 55, but that is not the case. What it did was it took the copy of Office and took that copy and set it equal to 55, because that what happens in functions. You pass in parameters int x, Office, which got passed into int x, and x, which was equal to 55. So the copy of Office was equal to 55. And then when we called pass by reference, remember, pointer takes the address of another variable. Remember from the previous video. So what pass by reference did, we passed in the address of Blender. Basically we give direct access to Blender. We basically authorized Blender that, hey, whenever you are using pass by reference, you go ahead and within the parameters you take the address. And what we did was we set this address and passed it into this pointer function, not function, pointer variable. And then this pointer variable was set it equal to 55, and then the value of Blender changed from 10 to 55. So that is actually what is happening behind the scenes. The value of Office didn't change, because what it did was it changed the copy of Office. It changed the copy of Office, but it didn't change the original Office variable itself. And in the case of Blender, what we did was we basically changed the original. So that is why I was let me just comment this out. And now remember, these comments and the use of these variables is just to explain. This specifically does not have to do anything with the program. Just for the sake of explanation, I use these variables, Office and Blender. And you know that Office is a proprietary software in reality, and Blender, the 3D modeling software Blender, is an open source software, pretty popular among programmers. And Office, everyone knows about Office. Who doesn't know about Office? So remember, what we are doing here in this function is we are passing by value, and what we are doing here is we are actually passing by reference. Now this pass by value and pass by reference, these are just the technical terms, the technical C++ terms. They don't have anything to do with this program. They were just, you can use any function you want and it will work just fine. But why I use pass by value and pass by reference, just so that it becomes easy to explain. So again, one last time what we did. We have these two variables int Office initialized to 10 and Blender initialized to 10. And then what we did was we built two functions. And in this function, let it any name. You can name it any function. I've named this pass by value just for the sake of explanation. And it's gonna have int x as a parameter, and then it's gonna, the x that it has would be set it equal to 55. And then we have pass by reference, and in this we have the parameter as a pointer. And remember, pointer likes to have an argument that is the address of something, address of any variable, and the argument here is office, and actually office is equals to 10. So that is actually what is happening. What we give the access to the address, and here what we did was we give access to the variable itself, the value of variable, pass by value. And here what we did was we gave access to the original, original controlling of the variable, so that anyone with a good idea can change the value of Blender. And remember, anyone cannot change the value of office. Office remains 10 forever until the corporate people wants to change. So remember, office was 10 before. At the time of initialization it was 10, but at the time of when we were passing in the function, the value remained 10. It did not change. Basically what it happened is it changed the value of the copy, not the original. And in case of Blender, it changed the original version. So that is what actually is happening. So I know this tutorial might be super confusing, but trust me, if you practice this 1 or 2 times, you'll definitely at least get the concept of pass by value and pass by reference. And actually, pass by reference is actually useful in some ways. It actually saves your processor a lot of work, because in pass by value you have to make a copy of every variable when you use it, but in pass by reference you directly change and there are no copies involved, so hence less processor work. So that is why what is the advantage of using pass by reference way. So there are actually 2 different ways to pass arguments into functions. We learned pass by value and pass by reference, which saves a lot of processor work, or actually it saves a lot of stress on your computer. And of course there are a lot of advantages which we will know in the future. So for now guys, study this tutorial and practice it at least 2 times. So you guys study this tutorial and I'm gonna make myself some coffee.